Today, thank you so much for being with us. My name is Paul, and you have found the intersection of conservative ideas and reality where we are building a liberty machine. The phone number, if you want to call us or text us today, 870-275-9799 is the telephone number. Joining us now, I want to welcome back to the program. We have the president of the Family Council, Mr. Jerry Cox, is on the line. Jerry, welcome back, sir.
Well, it's always a pleasure to be on your show. Thanks for inviting me.
Yes, sir. And I'm always thrilled to have you on because, first of all, you know, the Family Council, you guys have been around for a long time, and you are one of the hardest working organizations in the state of Arkansas, advocating for conservative values. We're going to throw your website actually up on our live stream, but just kind of give us a rundown. You know, tell us what the Family Council is all about. Remind our audience.
Well, Family Council was established by me back in 1989, and we are a multi-issue pro-family organization. We are pro-life. We are pro-traditional marriage. We believe in limited government. We believe that taxes are too high, and we believe that the less government, the better for families out there who are just trying to make a go of it. And so if any of your listeners know anything about a group called Focus on the Family and Dr. James Dobson out of Colorado Springs, we are actually associated with them, and our views align very much with theirs. But I, in a simplistic way, tell people that we take the values of Sunday morning church and we carry them into the halls of government. And so that obviously takes us lots of different directions. We go to the Capitol and we lobby on legislation. I think we secured passage of over a dozen bills this go around, and we tried for some and didn't make it. We were trying for a bathroom privacy bill, much like what they passed in North Carolina, and we were not successful in getting that done, but we did get about 9 pro-life bills passed.
Yeah. And there was, like I said, and I read your April newsletter, and we'll get to more of that here in a minute, but you certainly did say that there were some good things done on the so-called bathroom bill, which, like you said, I think is more accurately described as a privacy bill. Kind of walk us through that. I mean, because I was talking to some senators who said, hey, this is an issue back home in my district. We've got, locker rooms and, people are trying to go in this locker room or that locker room. So it is a problem. But that, down at the Marble Palace, they tend to say, hey, this isn't really a problem. We don't need to be doing this. So what all happened behind the scenes there?
Well, it's all said and done. Some of this stems all the way back to 2015, when we were able to pass a religious freedom bill that a number of LGBTQ individuals thought somehow would infringe on their rights. And so they all came to the Capitol and they protested and carried on. And I think the governor and some other lawmakers decided, you know what, we don't want those people back out here, and the best way to keep them home is to not run any legislation that aggravates them. And so early on, the governor said, we don't need a bathroom privacy bill. And let me clarify what that bill is. It just says that if a facility is funded with tax dollars, then men and boys have to use the men's facility, and girls and women have to use the women's facility. It wouldn't even affect Walmart or Target or any private place out here, but at our schools, our colleges, our state parks, our public buildings, then if you're a male, you go in the men's side, and if you're a female, you go in the women's side, and that includes showers and locker rooms. And, Paul, I thought all the time I was growing up there was a law that said men had to use the men's restroom.
I think I did, too.
But there's not. If I believe right now, if you just walked in there, used the restroom, washed your hands, and walked out, I doubt that anybody could charge you with a crime. Now, if you're harassing or stalking or doing other things in there, yeah, they could probably get you. But it's just a common sense kind of bill. But the governor and others said, not necessary, not a problem. But are we going to wait until some little girl is molested in a bathroom by some man before we say it's a problem? I thought we were about preventing bad things from happening rather than waiting for it to happen and then try to close the barn door afterwards.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, and I'm glad that in talking about this, you referenced what happened in 2015 with the Religious Freedom Restoration Act. I mean, because that was, there was the initial version that was better than the one that we ended up with.
Yes.
And in large part, let me ask you this. You think those protesters that came down in 2015 and maybe some of the corporations that called the governor, I mean, that's kind of why the bill that he did support, the original Religious Freedom Act, he decided not to support that any longer.
Oh, I think definitely the protesters, the gay protesters, got all the media attention stirred up, but the corporate interests were the ones that really put the heavy pressure on. Walmart, Tyson, J.B. Hunt, different ones like that made their voices heard on it. I think that made the difference and caused the governor to say, let's do a weaker version of this. But to me, when people say,
the maintenance of a free society is a very difficult and complicated thing, and it requires a self-denying ordinance of the most extreme kind. It requires a willingness to put up with temporary evils on the basis of the subtle and sophisticated understanding that if you step in to do something about them, you not only may make them worse, but you will spread your tentacles and get bad results elsewhere.
I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the Founding Fathers. We lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
You're listening to the Paul Harrell Program, brought to you by Conduit Media Group.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the program. Thanks so much for being with us today. My name is Paul, and you have found the intersection of conservative ideas and reality, where we are building a liberty machine, and we want you to be a part of the liberty machine. One of the ways you can do that, call us, text us, 870-275-9799. Coming up at the top of the next hour, we will be talking with Senator Scott Flippo, big picture conservatism stuff, and the big picture on health care is what we're going to talk about coming up at 5, just specifically what's going on in Washington, D.C. I was already talking with Senator Flippo earlier today. He's got some great points, and it's always a pleasure to have him on. I want to talk a little bit about sports. It's in the news, this is headline from yesterday. UALR to study the possibility of bringing football and a marching band to Little Rock. I'm going to give you the optics on this that I don't know if you're going to hear anywhere else, okay? You may not hear you just may not hear this. I'm going to analyze this from a political standpoint, okay? Not just from a sports standpoint. University of Arkansas at Little Rock. Who wrote this story? Emma Petite. Anyway, the University of Arkansas Little Rock announced Wednesday plans to study the cost of a football program and marching band after students petitioned administrators in favor of the sport. University, along with the City of Little Rock and the State Department of Parks and Tourism, will be looking for a firm to do the analysis. They'll be looking for a firm to do the analysis. They will be paying that firm to do the analysis on whether or not Euler should have a football program and a marching band. Now, before we go any further than that, okay, you have to understand something here. If Euler, that's how I affectionately refer to them and always will, if they decide to go forward with a football program, it's not just about more money to fund a football program. Because there's something called Title IX. You also have to have let's say women's sports. You know what I mean? If you have a men's sport, you got to have a women's sport. There's a give and take, or you have to find a way to give more scholarships. Either way, it's more money. I was told you don't necessarily have to add more women's sports, but you would have. There's more scholarships and that sort of thing.
Yeah, it has to be an equal amount of scholarships for men and women.
Yes, exactly.
Athletes.
So we're talking about a lot of money, but again. This is what you need to remember. The Department of Parks and Tourism. The reason, that's a great question, Joe. What was your question?
So I was curious about this whenever you read it. Why is Parks and Tourism on this?
Okay, it's a great question. Back during the legislative session, Governor Asa Hutchinson had to tamp down actual conservative ideas, which is what he does. And there was a conservative idea by, let's say, Bart Hester. Senator Bart Hester, he's from Northwest Arkansas. He was proposing cutting funding for War Memorial Stadium. Now, number one, the Razorbacks, they're getting out of the Little Rock game. And from a financial standpoint, why wouldn't you? I mean, you've got the stadium up there in Fayetteville, and it's much larger than the one in War. I mean, and plus it's just a better game day atmosphere.
And also, from what I understand, U of A also has a very bad record at War Memorial.
It used to be really good, though. You should look that up, actually, because there's going to be Hog fans out there that will immediately correct. But it's no fun playing in Little Rock, number one, okay? There's been a few times over on my side of the state here in Northeast Arkansas, a few times in my past where Arkansas State has gone to Little Rock, and it's always it's not ever that much. It's just so much better. Just play the game on the campus. You know what I mean? It's better. It's better to play, home games in Fayetteville. It's just better to do that. I mean, I don't understand what the big deal is. But because of that, and so now you have less and less big events there, and you have the taxpayers who are paying for this. Go to this article, Joe. Show them this. This is 5 News Online. This article from March the 9th. Again, this is about Bart Hester. A state senator from Northwest Arkansas wants to reduce state spending by cutting funding to the historic War Memorial Stadium. Bart Hester from Cave Springs, quote, $900,000 a year to fund a football stadium that is only used a handful of days is not a good use of taxpayer money. One of the easiest things to do when you're running for office is to say, I want to cut government spending. It is very hard to actually name items to cut. Quote, the football stadium is very old. It's not functional anymore. And essentially he's saying, look, we shouldn't be spending $900,000 a year of taxpayer money. Now, that's such a small amount. We're talking about almost $30 billion state and federal budget when you look at it. $900,000 shouldn't be hard, right? Shouldn't be a hard thing to do. But unfortunately it was. Pull up this Max Brantley article. Do you see this? Do you have the headline, War Memorial Stadium Takeover Approved by the House? Yeah, right there. So fast forward to Friday, February 17th. Governor Hutchinson had to beat back conservative ideas like Bart Hester's, which is, we're talking about it's a very easy concept. Let's just not spend $900,000 on a stadium nobody's using. But the House and the lapdog legislator did exactly what the governor wanted them to do. By a vote of 87-1, with 2 voting present, the State House approved a bill ending an independent War Memorial Stadium Commission, highlight this, Joe, and putting the stadium under control, to answer your question, of the State Parks and Tourism Department. Now everything becomes clear. And the clarity that I'm hoping to provide you here is, this isn't just some out-of-the-blue situation. Go back to the headlines for today. Okay, the headline for today, let's see. This is the 13th, right? So the new headline is, you've got Brooks Cabana, study set of football returning to UALR. Okay, this is the new headline for today. They're going to go through with this study. You see, this didn't just come up today. You can clearly tell that there's been plans, there's been ideas negotiated, and in order to get to the point where we are now, you had to defeat the idea of just not spending $900,000 of taxpayer money. And so you abolished the War Memorial Commission, and instead then you put the stadium under a different government agency, the Parks and Tourism, yada, yada, yada. Here we are. Because the article says that it's the Parks and Tourism Department that's going to be paying for part of this. The city of Little Rock will pay for this study to see if they should bring football to Euler. The University of Arkansas at Little Rock will pay, and the Parks Department is going to pay. Okay, these are the 3 entities that are going to kind of share the cost of finding this study. Now, people are going to say, because I heard an interview I heard an interview on the Sports Talk Radio, Brad Bobo's show earlier today. It was the athletic director from the University of Arkansas at Little Rock saying, the study's going to be unbiased. We'll see what the study says. Now, personally, I have high skepticism of that because anytime the Arkansas government is involved in getting a study, they get a study that gives them the predetermined outcome that they already want. Most of the time, that's what happens. That's what happened on the task force. The task force on health care. It was a predetermined result. They wanted to keep Obamacare. That's what's going to happen now with the task force. They have a predetermined result of what they want, and they're going to try to. Anyway, whatever consultant, whatever study they do, they're paying a company to give them a recommendation that many people already want and know what it's going to be. It's very simple. Okay, that's just what happens. So, where do we go from here? Let's see. Hang on. You got the thing that passed. Oh, and here's the best part. Okay, so let's see. Government efficiency on display. Go to this one. Fast forward to February 23rd. So the House approved that bill, a couple days earlier in February of this year. Fast forward from that date to February 23rd. Governor signs agency change for War Memorial Stadium. And listen, look at this. Do you see what happened? Do you remember this? Do you see this photo? Folks, he went to War Memorial Stadium to sign the bill. This has been planned for a long time. I'm just telling you, this is how these things work. I don't think you're going to hear this analysis anywhere else. Whether you agree or disagree that University of Arkansas at Little Rock needs a football program 10 years from now, whether you agree or disagree, I disagree. I don't think they should be spending the money. I just want you to know this is not something that just, I had an idea yesterday. This is something that's been planned. And the fact that, I don't know. Look at that photo. You got the press that was invited. You got people you've got veterans, War Memorial Stadium. You got veterans at this. Governor Hutchinson has a podium. He gives a speech. Then he sits down at a table and he signs the bill that, quote, saves War Memorial Stadium's viability by transferring it under the Parks Department. Now, I don't know. Maybe War Memorial Stadium is dear to the governor's heart in some way. I don't know. Maybe he saw some great Razorback wins at that stadium at some point. So I guess it's possible. But does that not strike anybody as strange? Pomp and circumstance to sign a bill to save War Memorial Stadium at War Memorial Stadium. I mean, they had a color guard show up. I mean, look at that photo. Go ahead, Joe. What did I say? Or talk about the.
Okay, so
yeah,
I actually found the Razorbacks actually have a statistics page on football. Like it says miscellaneous records. And they actually have an overall record at War Memorial. It's 150 wins, 60 losses, and 4 draws.
Okay.
So if you're looking at a batting average, they're batting at .710, which is really good.
Yeah, that's not bad. It's not a bad place for them to play. They're not coming back.
That's overall from I think it's like 118, 120 something.
But it's totally understandable. I mean, think about this from a football standpoint, from a coaching standpoint, you would hate it.
123 seasons.
You have to get everybody on a bus, and you have to drive 2.5 hours. So you essentially are making what would be the relaxing atmosphere, familiar environment for a football team an away game. It's a home game, but it's an away game, right? And then in some cases in the past, you have the Razorbacks. They allow teams like University of Louisiana Monroe to count it as a home game, so their attendance levels can be boosted. I mean, it's just strange. Just play your games. I mean, play wherever you want. But I guess I just don't blame them. I don't blame the Razorbacks for not wanting to play at War Memorial Stadium anymore. So Governor signs agency. Listen to what it said. I'm going to read some of this. Michael Wickline's piece. Governor Hutchinson went to War Memorial Stadium on Wednesday to sign 3 bills that would reorganize state government, including legislation that merged the freestanding War Memorial Stadium Commission into the State Department of Parks and Tourism. With about 100 people on hand for a news conference at the stadium's field, the Republican governor signed Senate Bill 255 by Senator Missy Irvin, Republican from Mountain View, into law. It's now Act 269 and became effective upon the signature. The 8-member War Memorial Commission will continue to be appointed by the governor under Act 269, but its actions would be subject to the approval of Parks and Tourism Director, now Kane Webb. And he also signed some other things in there, but this is anyway. So this has been a long time coming. So somebody just, feel free, text, call in, whatever. Do you think University of Arkansas should have a football program? I had no idea. There was a lot of times I try to get ahead of this and I try to speculate. I do remember seeing, go back up to the photo, I do remember seeing this pomp and circumstance, and I thought, this is weird. Why would the governor go to all the trouble to sign a bill at War Memorial Stadium? I guess people at Little Rock breathe a sigh of relief, or, some people say the business community is just hoping that the stadium stays viable or something. And I suppose that's the case. I was like, but why would he do all this? Well, it's because there was other things at work. And I guess the idea that the University of Arkansas at Little Rock apparently needs a football program, which, again, is only going to cost more money. Let's just think about this for a second. If it all is connected and this has all been planned, which, of course, it has, just go back to the initial – just think about it. You got Bart Hester just saying, hey, look, we shouldn't be spending $900,000 on a football stadium. Well, guess what? You're about to spend a whole lot more. I have a number here that is just kind of a rough estimate, and I bet you it's much higher than this, especially if we take into federal funding. But if you just take state dollars, how much the state of Arkansas spends on our higher education, we're looking at you're looking at north of $800 million of our state dollars going to higher education. Now, look, that's a lot of money. Keep in mind that $800 million that's going to fund your education or higher education in Arkansas, people have to pay tuition on top of that to go. You start adding all of this up, it gets astronomical. So why in the world what's the viability there? It just doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. Growing government seems to always be the easy thing to do. They act like we have unlimited resources. And it's not just in this. I mean, you have Governor Hutchinson pleading for John Bozeman and Tom Cotton to please don't vote for the Obamacare repeal if it puts more cost shifting on the state of Arkansas. Please don't do it. I mean, you can only continue this giving away free stuff if you believe that we have unlimited resources, and we just don't. But people always think about, well, wouldn't that be a good idea? Wouldn't it be a good idea if the University of Arkansas Little Rock had a football program? Then that would solve this little vacant stadium thing that we have. We might be able to actually justify some more taxpayer blah, blah, blah. That's as far as it gets for some of these people. Wouldn't it be a good idea if that was... I mean, I suppose it would be a good idea if an empty stadium was no longer empty and was used. But what do you have to do? Well, we're going to have to pay for a study, first of all. Or they're going to have to waste the legislature's time, and instead of cutting $900,000 of spending, we're going to find a way to keep spending. And I think we still spent like $400,000. We went $900,000. I think they're claiming they're only spending $400,000 a year now by absorbing it into the Parks Department. They'll tell you, oh, that was a great conservative reform. Well, I mean, of course it's the purpose of government to be involved in the funding for sports stadiums and facilities. It's not like it's not like that $400,000 could go to another government facility, like an actual government facility. Just food for thought. 870-275-9799. Back in a moment. Arkansas small businesses are tired of taxes that are too high and regulations that work as obstacles to small business success. If you own a small business, it's time to take action. Now, I'm not talking about the local chambers of commerce. I'm talking about an organization that's actually run by small business owners and are fighting for small businesses right here in the state of Arkansas. They're called Conduit for Action, and they're on your side. Conduit for Action is here not to get something from the government, but to be left alone by the government. Think of them as your personal advocate for limited government at the Capitol in Little Rock. If you're tired of all the politicians talking with no results and ready for action, Start outsourcing your government affair needs with Conduit for Action. Go now to conduitforaction.org and click on Contact Us on the right side of the page. That's conduitforaction.org and stand up for small business in Arkansas.
What you cooking? It smells familiar.
I'm cooking something amazing, new, and different, and you're going to love it, babe.
Really? It seems like we've had this dish before.
Don't believe me? Come and taste it for yourself.
Okay. Yeah, I think I'm right. This tastes just like Obamacare.
No, actually, it's the new private option. I call this fantastic new dish Arkansas Works.
That's odd, because it looks and tastes just like Obamacare.
Why do you always have to be so critical? I'm in here cooking, trying to do something nice for the family.
Because I thought we talked about this before. I don't like Obamacare.
You just need to give it another chance.
So you admit it's the same?
No, it's different. It's Arkansas Works.
Let me ask you something. Does it smell like Obamacare?
Yes.
Does it taste like Obamacare?
I suppose so.
Are you using the same ingredients to make it as you used to make Obamacare?
Yes.
Then how is your so-called new dish, Arkansas Works, not Obamacare?
Well, let me explain, honey. You will remember, recently, I had my name legally changed at your request, right?
Yes, I know. You had it changed from Duke to Rover. I dislike the name Duke, and I think Rover sounds so much more personally responsible.
Well, now that I'm called Rover instead of Duke, I believe I can take the same recipe and ingredients and create a dish with the same smell and taste from before.
Okay.
And because of my name change, you will love it.
I'm not buying it. And I just realized the name Duke and Rover are both common names for dogs. PHP Parody. Broadcasting across Arkansas and holding politicians accountable for what they say and do. The Paul Harrell Program.
Yeah, so we're going to need everybody, all hands on deck, really, the next couple of years. I mean, especially when we have to fight off what is inevitably going to be a deceptive ballot title that's going to be before us that will raise our gas taxes. It's coming. The Highway Department, they want more of your money. It's very clear. The gas tax increase proposal failed, and so they're trying to bring it back. They weren't able to pass it out of the legislature and put it on the ballot. They failed at that because we had enough conservative defense. We didn't have too many offensive victories, but we had some good defensive victories. And now the Highway Department, they're going to be canvassing, they're going to be collecting signatures, they're going to try to get this on the ballot. The good news is programs like this one are going to tell you the truth that as Asa Hutchinson has already come out and supported taking more money from you at the pump, and he has supported the exact plan, is what he said. He wants the exact plan that failed to be the one that, they get the petition, the signatures for. Folks, that doesn't say anywhere in the ballot title that people would be voting on that it would raise taxes if you vote for it. It's incredibly deceptive if that's actually what they move forward with. I mean, if it doesn't say, if you vote for this, you're raising your gas taxes, but it's hopefully going to go to roads, And now if I wrote the ballot title, it would say, a yes vote for this will raise your gas taxes, and keep in mind that we already had a bond issue in 2012 to raise money for highways. We already had this. I'm sick and tired of the government asking for more and more of our money when we already pay them money to do certain things. We already pay money for the government to build our roads. Just what are they doing so poorly that they constantly need more of it? Is there a limit to the budget? I mean, would they say we have enough money? Is there a line? I'm tired of paying higher and higher taxes. You guys need to get it together. Gas is on an all-time low. The cost of roads should be getting cheaper. Asphalt is cheaper. Why do you constantly need an ever-increasing revenue base? We're sick of it. I'll tell you what you can do to fight back next.
Paul Harrell, weekdays from 4 to 6. Learn more at paulharrell.com.
Well, it's not a problem here, but we know it's been a problem elsewhere. So a little bit like somebody saying, well, we've never had a terrorist bombing in Arkansas, so we don't have to worry about a terrorist bombing here. Well, if it's going on elsewhere, then you figure we ought to prepare ourselves for something here. And that's true with these privacy bills. They have had issues elsewhere, largely in schools, where some mother would decide that her 14-year-old son really is identifying as a girl, and pretty soon they're trying to put him in the locker room with the 14-year-old girls, and it just creates all kinds of issues. Or we have boys out here declaring themselves to be girls, and then once they do that, they're dressing with the girls, but they're also running on the girls' track team and trying to play girls' sports, and it just has a ripple effect that goes all over the place.
Yeah, you're certainly right about that. And speaking of, this idea of we don't need to address a problem until it exists, they actually did do something like that. I can't remember the name of that, Designated Survivor. That TV show about everybody in Congress and everybody is killed in a terrorist attack. I believe the legislature down in Little Rock, they didn't have a plan if something like that were to happen.
That's right,
and they addressed it this last session. So,
which is good. I'm glad they did. I hope it's a good solution. But anyway, there's just that. And see, once the governor made his pronouncement that this is not a problem and we don't need this, then far too many lawmakers just kind of sat down and said, well, okay, then we won't do anything.
Yeah.
And that I find very disappointing. In fact, I've been going to the Capitol really since Bill Clinton was governor. And I think in many ways this legislative body was one of the least independent thinking bodies that I've seen in a long time. Because many times, Paul, I would ask a lawmaker about sponsoring a bill, and the first thing they would say was, well, let me go check. Well, check with who? Well, I need to check with House leadership, or I need to check with the governor's office, or I need to check with this group of people. And I'm like, can't you think for yourself? Why do you have to go get permission to file a bill? I thought you were, a strong, independent person out here. But we saw that far too many times. Or a person would file a bill, and then the leadership would say, don't you run that bill. And they would just wilt in the face of that and not run the bill. I had people promise to run bills that we wanted, and then they'd say, well, I've decided not to run it. Well, why? Well, leadership really doesn't want that. And that's just the end of it then. And so I find that very disappointing.
You write in your we talked about this a few days ago, in the April 2017 Family Council update. You said this in the second paragraph. The first trend is a new breed of lawmaker who is guided too much by legislative leadership and the governor instead of the party platform, their core beliefs, or the constituents back home who helped them get elected.
Yes.
And so it is kind of strange, you being there since Bill Clinton was governor, and Republicans are supposed to be the party of family values. They run on that. Matter of fact, I consider it kind of a low-hanging fruit issue because I think it's something that so many of us agree on, and then they are not allowed. They think they're not allowed to vote because the leadership doesn't want them to. I mean, that's got to be really frustrating for somebody like you who.
Arkansas can be the land of opportunity once again. Paul Harrell is on now.
All right, folks, welcome back. I just hit something maybe I wasn't supposed to hit. 870-275-9799 is the telephone number. Feel free to give us a phone call or give us a text message. All right. So you've got this article here, the Highway Department. And check this out. Highway Department. Where's this from, Joe? I can't.
Olive News.
Olive News. What's the website say up there?
Digital.olivesoftware.
Okay. All right. So there's an article here. The Sentinel Record. Okay. The Sentinel Record. David Showers. That's actually where it came from. I knew it had to be an Arkansas source. Highway Department wants the public to weigh in on roads. The Arkansas State Highway and Transportation Department is asking the public to weigh in on how to pay for the 16,000 miles of roads the state is responsible for maintaining. When was this? This was back on the 12th of this month, so this was yesterday. Now, they want more of your money. Now, I teased when we went to break, I'm going to tell you what you can do to fight back. For those of you watching on Facebook Live, I think we've already posted the link that's going to be very useful to you to fight back against this. Because, you see, the problem is these highway guys and these people who are interested in doing everything they can to grow the size of our government, they like to use polls. Well, polling shows this, or a survey shows this. The online Citizens Opinion Survey on highways in Arkansas asks respondents to list road improvements needed in their area and if they are willing to support a new revenue source to fund the improvements. Folks, I have posted this survey that you can fill out online for the Highway Department. It's at our Facebook page right now, facebook.com/Paul Talk Show. As we speak, I'm going to mosey on over to paulharrell.com, okay, before we go any further, because for our listeners at paulharrell.com, some people would rather watch there than Facebook Live. I get it, understand. And I'm going to go ahead and post this link right now in the comments section over at paulharrell.com, and it is posted now. So you click on that link, and that will take you to the survey where you can, the Citizen Opinion Survey on Highways in Arkansas. That's what it'll read, okay? You got it? It's all there. Facebook.com/Paul Talk Show. It's in the comments of the Facebook Live video. It's also in the comments right below the audio player, the video player, over at paulharrell.com. So, respondents can choose from 5 options. We're going to fill ours out here on the air here in just a minute. Respondents can choose from 5 options for raising revenue: increasing the gas tax, increasing the diesel tax, a sales tax increase dedicated to highways, an increase in vehicle registration fees, or a sales tax on the wholesale price of motor fuels. A 6th option would transfer existing sales tax revenue from vehicle purchases and other automobile-related items to highway funding. That right there, wow. These guys are working so hard at the Highway Department. They're being so creative, right? They're trying to figure out a way which one is most acceptable to you, so they can craft their propaganda. Really, which one is most acceptable to you? To raise revenue. I mean, I don't know about you, but I send all of my politicians, and I hope all my government officials get creative in how to raise money from me. In fact, the truth is the opposite. I would much rather than be creative and try to figure out how to shrink government so we can spend money on the things that we actually all agree we should spend money on. Right? Does the entire state believe that the state of Arkansas should be... Are we in total agreement that the state of Arkansas... Let's just think about this for a second. Let's just think about our priorities. Do we believe, as an entire state, are we unified around the idea the state of Arkansas should be paying for a new welfare program for able-to-work adults with no dependents or children's health, no dependents or children? Should we be paying for free health care for those who are choosing not to work but are able to do so? I would say we are far from unified on that. There's a giant divide in the Republican Party. The majority of the Republican base doesn't think so, right? We don't want to spend money on that. Yet we are, because of the minority and the Democrats, minority of Republicans and what they did, how they got us in this fiscal plight. But I would submit to you that crazy liberal progressives, Democrats, Republicans, we all will agree, yeah, we'd like our government to build and maintain good roads. All right. Well, that's something we all agree on. Why is it so hard to spend money and allocate existing tax revenue to those things? Well, it's because we're doing this thing over here that nobody wants us to do, but we're going to do it anyway. Doesn't make any sense. They're being very creative. Listen to this. The 18.3 cent per gallon federal motor fuel tax has not been raised since 1993, nor should it. I mean, has our population gone up since 1993? It's more people on the highways. Now, they're going to say, well, fuel efficiency has decreased. I'm sorry, fuel efficiency has increased, so people are buying less gas. Well, okay. There's other things you could do. I mean, you could shift money. You could shift revenue. You could say, hey, let's say, and this is one option where they say transfer existing sales tax revenue from vehicle purchases and other automobile-related items. How come that's not already happening? You know what I'm saying? That's an actual, that's a lateral move. You could get behind that. But at the same time, though, as gas prices go up, building roads get more expensive. As gas prices go down, building roads get cheaper. So you can't really buy their argument. It's not exactly as black and white as they'd like for you to believe. Last year, I mean, we just had the 2012 bond issue that gave them millions of dollars. Last year, a block of senators proposed raising the state's gasoline tax by 8 cents over 2 years. According to the U.S. Energy Information Administration, 27 cents per gallon is the average state tax on gasoline. The survey also asks respondents if they're willing to sign a petition to put a citizen-initiated highway revenue proposal on the 28 general election ballot. You know what? Let's just cut with it, and let's navigate this. Joe, I know you're going to go ahead and do that real quick. I'll keep going for a second. Survey also asks respondents if they are willing to sign a petition before the tax sunsets in 2023. It will raise $1.8 billion for the Connecting Arkansas program, which is funding the $78.5 million project widening Highway 70 east to 5 lanes from Interstate 30 to Hot Springs. Highway Department. So let's fill this survey out. Let's do it. What do you think? Citizen opinion survey on highways in Arkansas. Are you satisfied? I'm going to make some liberal progressives pretty angry with this. Are you satisfied with the condition of the existing state highway system? Joe, I would like for you to mark no. I am not satisfied with the condition of it. I don't think we have very good roads in Arkansas. You think Mississippi has bad roads, too? Yeah, you're from Mississippi? I didn't know you were from Mississippi. Wow. Well, I mean, we're in this big, always in a competition with Mississippi, seems like. But it's, not who you really want to be competing with. Are you satisfied with the condition of the existing state highway system? No, I'm not satisfied with it. I think the roads should be better, but I think you guys are wasting money in a lot of places you shouldn't be spending money. What highways in your area need improvements, and what type of improvements do they need? Joe, just right. We're just going to fill out one priority. I would just say I've made a lot of trips to Little Rock recently. And the right lane going south to highway, on 67 is just getting undrivable. You got to drive in the left lane the whole time because I guess you know what I'm saying? Yeah, just dun on the right lane. So you got that, and then of course Jacksonville has been under the whole Jacksonville exchange. That thing's been under construction since 1967. It's like it's just constantly going to be under construction. Yeah, that's good. Right lane. So scroll on down. They got priority 2, 3, 4, whatever. That's just what I would like fixed. They're asking my opinion, folks, so it's okay. If you want better highway conditions, the Arkansas Department of Transportation will need additional funds. Oh, gosh, that is, I mean, I guess that's a true statement. It's just whether or not we're going to sacrifice from these priorities over here and make roads a real priority.
I'm going to answer this one for you, Paul.
Okay. What does it say? Would you support? Oh, this is okay. So this is great, and this is all you guys need to go there and do this yourself. Would you support a new highway program that would generate additional revenue? The answer is no. So go ahead and you did, yeah, you marked no. Good. Which of the following sources do you recommend be utilized in obtaining additional funds? Well, we just checked no, but let's see if we could get behind any of these. Increase in gas tax, no. Increase in diesel tax, we're not going to mark that. Increase in sales tax dedicated to highways, no. Increase in vehicle registration fees, no. Don't think we want to make the Clinton mistake. Add sales tax on wholesale price of motor fuels, no, but that's the one. That one right there, that's the one they want to put before the ballot. They want to increase the wholesale gas tax on motor fuels. And then this one, transferring existing sales and use tax on motor vehicles and related parts and service currently collected but not paid to highways. Go ahead and mark that one. I could get behind that one. That's a lateral move. Okay. And then other specifics. Hang on one second. I've got something I want you to write here, Joe. I kind of gathered my thoughts a second ago. Okay. Do not raise more revenue from the taxpayers. Write that. We're filling this survey out online. You guys need to do it too. Yeah. Do not raise more revenue from the taxpayers. New sentence. Arkansas government should shift priorities and take money from other areas to provide the people with good roads. Arkansas government should shift priorities. Okay. And take money from priorities is oh, you got it. Okay. And take money from other areas. There we go. To provide the people with good roads. You almost got it. All right. New sentence. And then just say this. We pay enough taxes. Period. All right. Next question on the Highway Department survey. Would you be willing to sign a petition to put highway revenue proposal on the 2018 general election ballot? No. The answer is no, because we know they want to deceptively raise their taxes. If yes, what county do you live in? Well, we hit no. And then how did we hear about the survey? I don't know. How did I hear about this? I heard about it from a friend who emailed me about it. So we'll put friend. There we go. And then we've got optional contact information. I'm going to go ahead and give him my name. Go ahead and put my name, Joe. And we're going to skip the whole address part, but then we'll go down here and you go ahead and put the email in. Just go ahead and put Paul at answer2.us. That's ANSWERTO.us. And click submit, sir. And there, thank you for your opinion. And all of you out there should do the same. If you want to fight back against this, you want to fight back against the Highway Department's proposal, you guys go to paulharrell.com and click on the link in the comments. Go to facebook.com /Paul Talk Show. You can click on the link on the Facebook page or in the Facebook Live video. We've put this survey out there for you, so you have the opportunity to fight back and say, enough's enough. And, be nice, but feel free to get creative on, hey, we're taxed enough already. How much money do you actually need? Remind the Highway Commission they already are collecting money to do these things. They already are collecting money to do these things, so why do they constantly need more and more and more and more? Does the Highway Department need an unlimited budget? Right? It's just no. They don't need an unlimited budget. And that's essentially when they come back to you, every 3-4 years asking for more money. That's their mentality is, they think they do need an unlimited budget to do something that, they already collect money to do. That just drives me nuts. You already collect money to do these things. Just play this out in your head. On any tax structure, folks, why do they always think it's just okay? It's like they, we want a normal, the very first income tax. The very first income tax was 1%, 2%, 3%, and then it got as high as, 75%. Then you look at sales taxes. Sales taxes are supposed to just stay the same because the more people that buy, the more people that move to your area, the revenue goes up. That revenue is then supposed to compensate for the increased citizenry there, the increased population, or whatever government services would need to be there. This revenue is designed to go up automatically based on population increases. It's the same thing. The more people buying gas, it's the same concept. They don't need more and more money. Same thing with property taxes and property values and things like that. But they don't ever, it's like they ignore the fact that left to market forces and voluntary cooperation, the tax revenue of governments is going to go up as more people get involved. They ignore that fact. And that is happening all over the state. Some cases it's not. Well, then you have the same amount, then you got to start doing less if it does decline or people move out. But that's just the nature of things. The tendency of government, though, is the opposite. The tendency of government is to keep growing beyond the scope of what is feasible to maintain. Phone number to text us or call us is 870-275-9799. Here's a text message. Give us your name and county when you text in. Maybe our governor should go to Murfreesboro and dig for diamonds. Then he can pay for his pet peeves. We got Rick in Marion County also writing in. Because the highway department is an inefficient government agency. When they mow the road in front of my house, they spend all day mowing about a mile, then doing the other side. Then drive back down the road to do the same thing over and over, going in circles. Would it be so hard to mow one side all the way to the Buffalo River, then mow the other side coming back? Oh, that would save time and fuel. How dumb of me. Rick, Marion County. Excellent text message, sir. 870-275-9799. Back in just a moment.
Whether you're looking for a small desktop copier and printer, thinking about adding color to your documents, or considering a document management solution, Total Document Solutions is there to help. In business for decades, Total Document Solutions is an independently owned company that specializes in the ability to provide a high level of service in Northwest Arkansas, the Arkansas River Valley, Southwest Missouri, and Southeast Kansas as an exclusive Platinum Authorized Sales Agent for the Xerox Corporation. At Total Document Solutions, they offer customers technology services to improve business results. Their dedicated sales team has the unmatched industry knowledge, professionalism, and expertise needed to address the unique challenges of your business. Total Document Solutions is independent, local, and well-connected to serve your office products and document needs. Call them today at 479-575-0770. That's 479-575-0770 for your Total Document Solutions.
Welcome to Common Sense and Liberty. I'm Donnie Copeland. Well, there's been a little bit of stirring going on in political circles of late, and that is a result of Conduit from Northwest Arkansas releasing their legislative scorecard. And basically, this is just an indication or a scoring of how your legislator voted in this past legislative session. Now, I don't know why some legislators act surprised. I don't know why some got upset. I mean, if you voted conservative, you got a good score. If you voted liberal, you got a terrible score. If you voted somewhere in the middle, you got a score somewhere in the middle. And so how to fix that next time is just vote like the Republican platform, and then vote like you told the people who elected you that you would vote, and you won't be surprised next time. This is Donnie Copeland for Common Sense and Liberty.
Do you need to advertise your business product or service, but not sure what the best choice is? Folks, allow me to introduce you to Talk Radio. You're listening to it right now. Talk radio is one of the most unique mediums in all of advertising because it actually works. It gets the information you want to the people you want to get it to. And by the way, those people are educated, well-informed decision makers of their household, and most of them have disposable income. If this is a target audience for your business, then you have to consider advertising on my show, The Paul Harrell Program. We have options for most any budget and can provide you with exciting opportunities to grow your business. We can put your message across the state, or we can help you locally. Call 870-275-9755 if you have any questions. That's 870-275-9755, or visit my website, paulharrell.com, and click on Advertise.
Coming up the next long segment, we're going to be talking with Senator Scott Flippo, big picture conservative stuff, health care, what's going on in D.C. You don't want to miss that. Talk Business and Politics staff reporting that teacher activist Paul Spencer to formally launch a 2nd District congressional challenge. Catholic high school teacher and political activist Paul Spencer will formally move his candidacy from exploratory to official in his bid for Arkansas' 2nd District congressional seat. U.S. Representative French Hill currently holds the seat. So Spencer's a Democrat, and he has announced that he will challenge Congressman French Hill. Quote, "We now stand at a crossroads," he says, this Democrat Spencer. "For years, we have seen the political priorities of ordinary Americans drown in a sea of special interest money from the political donor class." Oh, gosh. Quote, it's like the exact same thing. I mean, a Republican could say the exact same thing. It's like, come on. He goes on, "But now if the Paul Ryan and Mitch McConnell healthcare agenda passes, many people will find themselves one pre-existing condition away from financial ruin." Yeah, so, I mean, this guy's going to be one of these folks who just wants, socialized healthcare for everybody. He goes on, "Moreover, this may be followed by cruel tax and budget proposals likely to be rubber-stamped by the Republican majority. Arkansans now stand to suffer real physical and material harm at the hands of the 115th Congress." All right, well, good luck with your candidacy. I mean, if the Democrat's going to win anywhere, I guess it's going to be in a district with Pulaski County in it. I get that. But good luck with that. Obamacare has been an unmitigated disaster. Socialized medicine is a disaster for that family over in Europe, Charlie Gard. And by the way, I need to look up and get an update on that, see where that is. It seems like I heard something that didn't go well. But anyway, it's frustrating as an Arkansan who's seen how popular some of these conservative ideas are in elections. Now, granted, we haven't implemented them. But some of these Democrats, they don't want to give up, which is fine. I guess whatever. But I guess they really believe the left mainstream media is going to have a positive. I mean, do they really believe that we're, as Arkansans, we're listening to that and not shaking our heads, being like, I mean, everything that the mainstream media told us in the election, the presidential election, was ignored by the American people. So why would you would think that a smart Democrat would at least recognize that the American people have gotten to a place where they honestly do not believe what the corporate media is telling them. They don't just take it as truth. More and more and more people are getting to that point. So if you're a Democrat and you're trying to get back power, you don't want to just assume that you should take the mainstream media's talking points and that that's going to be a successful play for you, when one of the most incredible political events there will never be another presidential election in my lifetime like the election of Donald Trump. I'm kind of sad about it because I'm 33 years old, and I'm like, well, there won't ever be another election as shocking as the election of Donald Trump in my lifetime. There are these constructs out there, folks, that have just something's changed, something has shifted, something is different. 870-275-9799. Senator Scott Flippo coming up next.
Rush, Glenn, Sean, and Paul. This is Jonesboro's 1013 FM News Talk, KBTM.
Paul Harrell, weekdays from 4 to 6. Learn more at paulharrell.com.
I'm sure, could see, that the Republicans are supposed to be the ones that, are siding on your side of the issues that you care about.
Well, and the other thing that concerns me is I'm afraid that the people that the establishment at the Capitol, House leadership, the governor, Senate leadership, and others, I'm afraid the folks that they recruit to run for these vacant seats may be people that are even more so that way, even less independent, even less, think on their own, stand on their own kind of people. And so if we end up with a legislative body where a few people say, hey, you have to do what I tell you to do because I got you elected, I've got a PAC over here that's funding you, and you better sit down and be quiet, and you'll do what I tell you to do, then we have lost that autonomy of the legislative branch, and the separate the power then is being consolidated in the hands of just a few people who are able to order everybody else around. Now, we're not at that point right now, but things are trending that way, and I hope it stops and goes back in the direction of having 135 independent lawmakers that think on their own, act on their own, and let the bills rise or fall based on the merits of the bill, not based on what some person in a leadership position wants to happen.
Well, and, you raise an interesting point, this idea of vacancies or primaries. I mean, do you think that maybe the people of Arkansas should pay attention in some of these Republican primaries that are inevitably going to happen of which person in leadership is supporting? Because I got a feeling, we've already had this precedent. The governor took sides in the 2016 primaries. I got a feeling he's going to take sides this time next year. And so, do you think they need to kind of be watching?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because, see, here's the thing. A number of Republicans who have run and are running probably this time around 15 years ago would have been Democrats. They would have run as Democrats. And so what you have are people that are saying, you know what, to get elected, I need to be sure I'm a Republican. But I don't know if their core values really align with that much with the party platform. And so that's something that people ought to delve into a little bit deeper is say, okay, I see you have an R by your name, but do you really believe the Republican Party platform and the values of the party? Now, do I think the Republican Party platform is perfect or that, they're the ones that are Christians and Democrats aren't? No, absolutely not. And what I do is I look at what our standard is here at Family Council, which is marriage ought to be the union of a man and a woman. The unborn ought to be protected. And women and girls shouldn't have to share a bathroom with men and all those things.
You're a radical, Jerry. What a radical idea.
Yeah. And so whichever party comes closest to that, then I'm over there with them. And so, but that's the question people need to be asking of some of these candidates. Do you really believe these moral principles that have guided this party for a long time, or are you just kind of along for the ride and not really, don't really care much about those?
Yeah.
And so I think that's important.
I gave the Democrats a ton of criticism. The ones who claim to be pro-life and then didn't vote to override Governor Mike Beebe's veto of great pro-life legislation, and they said,
right.
Well, the governor's a constitutional scholar, or the governor told me not to, so I didn't. What's the difference in that scenario? And now Republicans saying, oh, I can't run this bill, or I can't support.
maintenance of a free society is a very difficult and complicated thing, and it requires a self-denying ordinance of the most extreme kind. It requires a willingness to put up with temporary evils on the basis of the subtle and sophisticated understanding that if you step in to do something about them, you not only may make them worse, but you will spread your tentacles and get bad results elsewhere.
I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the Founding Fathers. We lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
You're listening to the Paul Harrell Program, brought to you by Conduit Media Group.
Hey, folks, welcome. Hour number 2 here. Thank you so much for being with us. My name is Paul. You have found the intersection of conservative ideas and reality, where we are building a liberty machine. Welcome back to the program. A senator calling in from North Central Arkansas, Senator Scott Flippo, is back with us. Scott, welcome, sir.
Paul, thank you. Pleasure to be with you all.
As always, sir. How was your 4th of July, by the way?
It was great. It was actually fairly uneventful. Didn't make it on the lake, but I did get some yard work done and got to clear out my flower beds and do a little bit of mulching. And so the signs that you're getting older is you look forward to holidays, not because you're going to be on the lake or the river, but because it's going to provide you with a day that you can get outside and work in your yard.
Yeah. Yeah, you're exactly right. That's exactly true. Signs that you're getting older. Well, Senator Scott Flippo, I loved having you on. We did a segment a couple weeks ago where we talked about some big picture conservative stuff, and I was wondering if we could kind of start by thinking about the big picture of this health care debate that's going on right now in Washington, D.C. You're following this, I'm sure, right?
You know, that's a great question, Paul. And you know, obviously, I think that the Republican Party is kind of at a crossroads here, or a stalemate, if you will. And it doesn't seem like there's any kind of headway in either direction on what they're going to do with as far as the repeal of Obamacare and I guess the replacement of Obamacare. And that's a point that I would like to touch on as far as the replacement. You know, it's proven to be very politically treacherous. And this is one of the reasons that I opposed the private option, the Obamacare Medicaid expansion here in Arkansas, was understanding that once you give people something, it's difficult to go back and to take it away. And that we ought to not have done it in the first place for a litany of reasons. And we've had it, you know, for just 3 years now, and the sky's falling and the heavens are collapsing if we do away with Medicaid expansion. And it's going to blow a hole in the budget, and it's going to do all these things. And, you know, I'm looking, you know, just this year, we had to scale back Medicaid expansion. And why? Well, now we're starting to pick up 5% of the cost. And that's going to increase to 10% of the cost, you know, in 2020. And that's going to be a big hit to Arkansas's budget. And we're going to have to make some tough decisions. Now, think about that's a big hit here at the state level. And imagine what that hit's going to be at the federal level. The idea that you can provide insurance for 20-something million new people that were previously uninsured and not have the cost, you know, not have that cost the rest of society anything is absurd. If Republicans are going to go out there and say that we're going to keep coverage for Medicaid expansion recipients, able-bodied working-aged adults between 18 and 64, and we're going to provide them with, you know, with free health care and free insurance, and in many cases there's a copay, but it's very nominal. You know, here in Arkansas it's about $13 for, you know, a $500-something policy. And we have to look at the costs associated with that. And I hear a lot of the liberal media saying that, you know, well, we're looking to kick grandma and grandpa out of the nursing home, and we're looking to do away with services for that 2-year-old with cerebral palsy. Absolutely not. I think that's who we need to be fighting for, making sure that we are protecting, because we do have that responsibility to these people. But for my own perspective, and I think for a great deal of conservatives, is we have to sit there and make some difficult decisions, and we have to prioritize our needs. And the elderly, the children, they got to rank at the top of that list. And before we can even engage the conversation of expanding health care to all, why don't we look at what our current obligations were pre-Obamacare and make sure that we have those programs shored up? I don't know anybody that was thinking that Medicaid and Medicare were vastly overfunded and, just humming along at a very efficient rate. There's always a lot of waste, a lot of abuse, and different things that go in. And so why wouldn't we want to address those things before we tackled even more?
You're really making some great points. Again, we're talking with Senator Scott Flippo. The point that you just made about the truly needy is certainly something that I think is overlooked. I mean, in Arkansas, you look at the developmentally disabled, the people who are on that waiting list, who can't get care, and yet, like you said, $500 a month per person going to insurance companies. That's how much we're paying. It's a lot of money. And but then we look at the cost. I like what you just said. Basically, if everybody is going to get free health care, it's not really free because somebody's going to have to pay for it. So, from the Washington, D.C. standpoint, what they're debating, it seems like our costs are not going to get cheaper unless we stop giving away so much of it for nothing. And do you think that we're, adults enough to have that conversation? Because I don't really hear that from this debate in D.C. right now.
I don't either, Paul, and I like to think that we are adults enough to have that conversation. And I'll be honest with you, I don't really care where you would fall on the political spectrum. At a certain point, I think that most citizens, be it of this state or of this country, what they'd like to hear from their elected officials is a degree of honesty and candor. And even if that means, giving you news that you would prefer not to hear, I'd rather people be direct and upfront and honest with me and tell me some hard truths instead of skirting around them and trying to sugarcoat them. And I think that's a big part of what's missing in government today at so many different levels is, you don't get elected by telling people, there's going to have to be some pain and sacrifice and some knocks on the chins that we're going to have to endure for the greater good. And it's all about, this is what I'm going to do for you. This is how I'm going to help you. This is how I'm going to benefit you. Well, somebody's got to pay for all of those things. And Republicans need to be very careful that we don't fall into this, liberal ideology. We can somehow go through and get government to provide all these services and do all of these things at no cost to the taxpayer, that we can actually increase spending and cut our revenues. And that's going to somehow be, be viable and stable. It's absurd financial policy. And I don't know anybody that makes that kind of financial decision-making in their personal life or in their business. And I just, for the life of me, I can't figure out why government thinks that they're somehow in a position to do exactly that. That's how you end up with $20 trillion deficit.
Let me ask you this, talking with Senator Scott Flippo, is it a little concerning or maybe disappointing that, we've had in Arkansas a lot of elections on this issue of Obamacare? You specifically, when you ran, Obamacare was a big issue in District 17. Nationally, I mean, it's what turned out the Tea Party and gave the Republicans the House, and then the disaster gave them the Senate, and then, it was a big part of the presidency as well, getting Donald Trump in there. And yet, the entire idea and concept of repeal really comes down to two senators, whichever two senators that it is that just says, hey, we're not going to support this. Is that, it's kind of, I don't know, it's kind of a
concerning.
Shame,
and I'm trying to think the senators from Nebraska's name, Ben, I want to say Ben Nelson, and I might be mistaken there.
Sass. You're talking about Sass, right?
No. This was back when Obamacare was being was being debated
Ben Nelson.
During the Obama administration.
Yeah, Nelson. Yeah, you're right.
Ben Nelson. Okay, and he ended up not going through with this, but in order to secure, in efforts to secure his support, was basically the federal government was going to pay for 100% of the cost of Medicaid expansion in Nebraska, and they kind of go off, and that's how they pick you off, is they buy you off. And so you end up supporting things not because you fundamentally agree with it, but because, you might get the better end of the stick. And that benefits you personally or your constituents personally. And I get that. You represent your constituents. But what about everybody else? What about the other 49 states? Could we do that for all states? And that's kind of how politics work. And, as a conservative, I don't think that I can sit around and just think about what are all the ways that government can benefit just me personally. What are responsibilities that I have to make sure that I'm doing as much as I can to help myself, to take care of myself, to help the people in my community. I have a responsibility, to my community, to my colleagues at my business. And what is my responsibility within all of this? And when you get into healthcare, so if somebody would say that healthcare is an absolute right, well, at some point, would it not stand to reason that the conversation shouldn't pivot to, well, if the taxpayers are going to be paying for your health insurance, what responsibilities does the individual have as far as their lifestyle, their decision making, and things they can be doing on their own to lower their cost of health care? What are preventative measures that they can be taking as far as diet and exercise and other things that can, have a reduction in their health care costs later on in life? I mean, if this is just an absolute right and entitlement, then you can just go off and smoke 2 packs a day and eat Big Macs and drink Mountain Dew and make all these horrible decisions. But, the taxpayers are going to pay for your health care.
Yeah, and that's where I get really worried because, if we buy into the everybody has a right to it, then eventually the financial bill does come due, and then they start trying to infringe on your rights. I mean, the Supreme Court, the precedent is still there. They can force you to buy health insurance, so why can't they force you to eat broccoli instead of bacon? That's where I'm worried we're going.
Absolutely, and that's one of the things that really frustrates me about government is the lack of long-term thinking and seeing that it's not just how it is today, but where's it going to be in 5, 10, 15, and 20 years down the road. And, a lot of times I think elected officials are just, sometimes they make decisions and think, well, I'm not going to be in office when the chickens come home to roost, so it won't be my problem. Mm-hmm. Well, it's all of our problem. And these are decisions that we make today are going to be affecting, future generations for the foreseeable future. So we have that responsibility that we need to not just be looking at the problems of today, but be looking at the problems of tomorrow and the potential that some of this additional spending and and increasing government, what cost is that going to come at? And a whole litany of things, Paul, that I could look at and think. And I was telling somebody the other day, we all know that, that smoking is bad and wearing your seatbelt is a good idea. And, in Arkansas now, they have a law, it's a primary seatbelt law, where, you can be pulled over and given a ticket, $150, $200 ticket for simply not wearing your seatbelt. And it's a good idea to wear your seatbelt. Does government exist to protect you from yourself? I don't think so. And today it's tobacco and seatbelts. Mm-hmm. Tomorrow it's going to be, donuts and life jackets.
Yeah.
It'll never end. There is no defensive line which you do not cross, and we're just going to leave it alone. And it's the same thing when I hear liberals talk about common sense gun control. Well, great. Who gets to define what common sense is? And can you assure me that, if we did something that we're never going to come back and touch it again? Mm-hmm. No. What government's going to do is they're going to take what they can get today and then circle back tomorrow and take another crack at it.
Take the rest.
And keep chipping away at our freedoms and our liberty. And they're going to do it under the pretext of making our lives easier.
Yeah, that's exactly
right. And
right.
that scares me exponentially.
And do we say, yeah, I want an easy life? Do we buy into the lie? Last question, Senator Scott Flippo. So I love what you said about, look where this is going to be 10, 20 years down the road. In Arkansas, kind of bringing this back down to the local level.
Sure.
Several years ago, there were Arkansas politicians, who are in the leadership now that were willing to talk about the path that we are on, which is socialized medicine. Unfortunately,
absolutely,
you look at what's happening with Charlie Gard over there in Great Britain and that family that's being told that their kid cannot get the experimental treatment. They just want to let the kid die. And it's like that's what we used to in Arkansas. We used to talk about that. And then I don't know, maybe they paid us to shut up about it. I mean, that's kind of what it looks like generally. Like, hey, well, we'll just give you this money. Shut up. Don't talk about the pitfalls of socialized medicine. That's really concerning to me, and I wish we could get back to a place where we do talk about the generally why socialized medicine is a terrible idea.
It's a horrible idea, and why is it that the government doesn't just exist just to make your life easier. That's not the purpose and the role of government. The government doesn't exist to protect you from yourself. It exists to make sure that, other people aren't infringing upon your rights and running roughshod over you, not to make sure that, you're not making bad decisions, and not just to make sure that your life is as easy as it can possibly be. If you wanted an easy life, I guess it's the right thing to do, just to never be able to leave your parents' house, just live in the basement and, eat mom's cooking every night and let her do your laundry and let dad cut the yard on the weekend. Don't pay any utility bills, and it's going to make for an easy life. But is that the way that life was meant to be lived? No.
Yeah.
And again, the idea, especially that concerns me, Republicans, is that we have to do a much better job of getting out and messaging and talking to our constituents about, why is it that we're conservatives? Why are these the principles and the values that we believe in? And you know what? Sometimes, there might not be a personal benefit directly to you, but it's not about you. It's about all of us. It's about the future of this country, making sure that our children, and you are a new dad. You just had a little girl last week, and so you have a newfound appreciation for this, Paul, that making sure that freedoms and liberties are still there for future generations, that we still appreciate and have an appreciation and understanding of what it's like to live in a free country. And, if we continue to water that down as Republicans go along with that, we're not just doing ourselves a disservice or our party a disservice, we're doing constituents a disservice and future generations a disservice. And that's the thing that we need to be out there talking about and impressing upon the people. People are willing to sacrifice. What you have to do is they want to be led by example and not just by rhetoric. And that's got to start with people in elected office. And I think that when you open up the paper and you see about another legislator or congressman that's on the take and got caught with their hand in the cookie jars, it's a difficult pill to swallow, to think, and who are you to tell me that I need to, do more with less? And, and I get that. And that's why it bothers me when I see people that, abuse their positions in elective office, because it makes us all look bad. It makes us all look self-serving, and that's not the case. But the challenging part is that we're going to have to visit with our constituents about some things that are not going to be inherently fun conversations, but they're necessary conversations. And if we shirk from that responsibility, then shame on us.
Senator Scott Flippo, big picture conservatism. I always like to talk to you. We'll do it again soon, okay?
Look forward to it, Paul. Thank you very much.
Be safe. Folks, we're going to take a break. Always a great interview. Back in just a moment.
Arkansas small businesses are tired of taxes that are too high and regulations that work as obstacles to small business success. If you own a small business, it's time to take action. Now, I'm not talking about the local chambers of commerce. I'm talking about an organization that's actually run by small business owners and are fighting for small businesses right here in the state of Arkansas. They're called Conduit for Action, and they're on your side. Conduit for Action is here not to get something from the government, but to be left alone by the government. Think of them as your personal advocate for limited government at the Capitol in Little Rock. If you're tired of all the politicians talking with no results and ready for action, start outsourcing your government affair needs with Conduit for Action. Go now to conduitforaction.org and click on Contact Us on the right side of the page. That's conduitforaction.org, and stand up for small business in Arkansas.
Welcome to the Arkansas Obamacare Hotline. We would be more than happy to help you enroll in Arkansas Obamacare today. We just need a little information about you. Let's get started. If you're disabled, pregnant, or looking for medical care for your child, the program is currently full, and there's no doctors to see you. Please hang up now. If you're an able-bodied adult, please press 1. If you're currently employed, we're sorry, but you most likely do not qualify for the program. Please quit your job and call back later. If you don't work and instead play video games all day with your cats in your grandmother's basement, please press 1. If you've never lived in Arkansas, press 1. If you currently live in another state, press 1. If you recently purchased a home in New Jersey for $750,000, please press 1. If your current identity has previously been used by another person, was created before your actual date of birth, or doesn't really exist, please press 1. Congratulations! It sounds like you're the perfect candidate to receive Arkansas Obamacare. Please stay on the line, and a hardworking DHS employee will be with you as soon as possible. While you're waiting, feel free to relax as your ambitions to gainful employment fade away. PHP Parody. If you would like information about advertising or supporting the Paul Harrell Program and Conduit Media Group, call 870-275-9755. Join the fight against big government and advance the preservation of liberty by calling 870-275-9755. The Paul Harrell Program, brought to you by Conduit Media Group. You're listening to the intersection of conservative ideas and reality, the Paul Harrell Program.
If any of you out there want to do a search for me, you can feel free. I'm looking for a video of Governor Asa Hutchinson. He went on MSNBC. Is that right? Yeah, I mean, this was today. So he went on MSNBC like at 3-ish, maybe more like 2:40. Maybe more like 2:45 this afternoon. And I've been searching for the video. It hasn't been posted yet, from what I can tell, on MSNBC's website. Trying to figure out what he was saying. He went on with Ali Velshi. And I've got these search engines going, just different avenues, YouTube, Google, as well as the MSNBC's website, and it hasn't been uploaded yet, from what I can tell. So we'll probably have coverage of that. I'm sure the video will be out at some point. I guess, between now and the next show. So certainly that. Also, I got a text from Rick. Hang on, let me get this real quick. Rick in Marion County. Writes in, did you get Patriots of Act 746 cards? I did, actually, Rick. I have them. I have a huge stack of them right here that I will show off for the camera. There we go. I got a huge stack of them. I got them. Patriots of Act 746. I like these cards because they're very informative. Now, these are folks who are patriots. They are Arkansans, and they believe that we are a constitutional carry state, as I believe, just based on the Attorney General's opinion, as far as being able to open carry. And also, quite frankly, I mean, if you go even listen to some of the clips of Asa Hutchinson, he'll admit it. He says open carry is not a good idea, but he admits it. Of course, you've got law enforcement agencies everywhere that are, they're uncomfortable about the ambiguity. They say it's ambiguous, but it's just ambiguous because prosecutors are scared to prosecute somebody for possession of a firearm. They end up dropping is this the thing? If they end up dropping the charges, then clearly it's okay to do so. It just hasn't been, I don't know. I guess it hasn't been before a judge yet. But it's pretty cool. This card talks about Arkansas Second Amendment, grassroots movement, Patriots of Act 746. And then it has the Section 2 of the law, Act 746, about carrying a weapon. It's pretty cool. And then it has the Second Amendment on the other side, a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed.
Paul Harrell, weekdays from 4 to 6. Learn more at paulharrell.com.
Your bill because the governor doesn't want it, even though it's one of these issues that the people of Arkansas agree with, support overwhelmingly.
Sure, yeah. Or there's no difference, really, between when Mike Beebe would send his staff into a committee meeting to kill one of our pro-life bills. This time around, the governor sent 3 of his staffers, along with the Surgeon General, into the Public Health Committee to stop our health care freedom of conscience bill that would have ensured that little people out here working in a hospital couldn't be compelled to get involved in performing abortions or doing other procedures that violate their conscience. And so there's no difference between that. And so does this administration support pro-life? Yes, they do. But the minute that it gets crossways with corporate interests that don't want freedom of conscience legislation and bathroom bills and that kind of thing, then I find myself on the short end of the stick every time that happens.
Yeah, and that's incredible. Yeah, and that's another part of this letter from back in April that I guess the committee that voted this down, 80% of the committee membership is pro-life Republicans, but the bill failed. And you say that's because the governor sent some people in there to say, hey, this is not a good idea.
Yes.
Wow. Unbelievable. And I'm so glad, Jerry, that you came on the program, president of the Family Council, everybody, because this is some of the stuff that I've been saying, and I focus. I love the family value stuff, but I focus on the economic stuff. But this is kind of happening across the board with the Republican Party platform, and so it's very helpful to have you on to shine a light on this, and you're experiencing the same thing, and hopefully we can get our politicians to make different choices.
Well, I have a greater respect for liberals who have resolve and will stand up and just stand by what they believe many times than I do people that have no backbone and no resolve to stand up for anything other than what somebody tells them to. And that's what troubles me about some folks. Now, they're not all that way. I mean, many of our lawmakers are really solid, good folks, and I would give them very high marks for their performance. But like I said, some are not everything that they claim to be, and, that's disappointing.
Jerry Cox, president of the Family Council. I appreciate it, sir. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me on.
All righty. Have a great day. Folks, the website is familycouncil.org, by the way. Isn't that right, Joe? Familycouncil.org. Go and check them out. They are really good folks. Got to go to break. Back in a minute. All right. Still no sign of that Asa Hutchinson on MSNBC. I got a good text message from a listener about financial truth versus political truth. That would be a good whiteboard in the future. Financial truth versus political truth. It kind of goes right in line with the pain point politics. When Scott Flippo was on just a second ago and he was talking about how, the aged, the blind, the disabled are being used as the poster child when the media can just say the Republican Senate health care bill cuts X amount of, millions or billions of dollars for Medicaid. They want you to, again, it's the same way it got passed because they claimed it was going to be for the aged, the blind, and disabled when it got passed, and it wasn't for able-to-work adults. Now that they're getting rid of it for able-to-work adults, they're going to say, no, you're going to cut it for the truly needy. I mean, it's pain point politics. Then you get to financial truth versus political truth. Political truth is what Scott was saying. Nobody wants to actually have honest conversations with their constituents and saying, hey, we have a limited amount of resources in our country, and everybody just can't have everything, Everybody can't have everything all the time. Things are not unlimited. People don't live forever either. How about that? That's a thing that we don't ever really want to debate. Like, I think we don't ever want to. I mean, yeah, of course, everybody understands, self-evident truth. Death exists. But in the context of healthcare, I mean, that's essentially what you're fighting. You realize that, right? You're fighting. You're trying to stay alive as long as you can, which is obviously understandable, right? But in the context of, like he said, we're going to add 20 million people to, who aren't insured, and prices are going to go down. Yeah, no, that's not at all what's going to happen. Anyway, have you guys been paying attention to the voter data controversy? So Donald Trump, he's got this commission that's studying voter data, and let me tell you something. This is a great idea. I'm just telling you right now, if this thing continues to go forward, there are going to be so many cases of voter fraud discovered. It's going to be a huge, huge story, and it's gonna hurt the liberals in a way that they know it's going to hurt them. That's why you have people who are refusing to give up. So, Secretary of State Mark Martin here in Arkansas, he recently gave he was the first state, just go ahead and give the data to the Trump administration, to this voter fraud commission. Okay, and so he did that, and now the United States government is telling Arkansas to go ahead and delete the files on voter data. It's a very strange situation. I've tried to reach out, try to figure out what's going on, and I can't really figure out what's going on. I have my own theory, but the Arkansas voter data provided to President Donald Trump's Voter Fraud Commission is headed for the trash can days after it was submitted. According to an email exchange obtained from an FOIA, Associate Counsel for Vice President Mike Pence, Andrew Cossack, asked officials in Secretary of State Mark Martin's office to delete from a federal server the voter data that it already submitted. However, state officials couldn't access the server. Anyway, they're going to eventually delete this thing. So they send it, and they immediately are now saying, hey, maybe we should delete it. I'm not sure why exactly that's the case. It's kind of a mystery. I would imagine it's. Let me just say, I would imagine that it's just the federal government, Donald Trump, where anything he does, he can get in trouble for because, right? I mean, they're trying to obstruct him every step of the way. I would imagine this is the Trump administration dotting every I and crossing every T. That's my guess. I just feel like there's a they know what the left's going to do, and they do want this data, and they will get this data, but they maybe don't need it yet. Just a thought. Just a thought. So Arkansas submitted this data to the feds on July 5th, and some people I saw out there, they're saying, should we really be doing this? And, of course, it's public data. You can get it with an FOIA request anyway. It was the first state to submit data to the Presidential Advisory Commission on Election Integrity. Let's see. Asa Hutchinson is quoted in this article. That's really what I want to get to here. Let's see. The same Arkansas voter information that was released to the Trump administration has been provided about 200 times since January to various entities. This is Kelly Boyd, who's the Chief Deputy Secretary of State. That's what he told legislators and county clerks at a meeting Wednesday in Eureka Springs. Those entities include states, organizations, political parties, and Arkansas legislators. We submit information every year to the state cross-check program. Governor Asa Hutchins, listen to this. This is amazing to me. I can believe it. Governor Asa Hutchinson told a group of high school students Monday that the state should not have provided any data to the Trump Commission. Quote, I'm not a fan of providing any data to the commission in Washington, Hutchinson said in response to a student's question. Even though it is publicly available information, he said, and anyone can get it, all you have to do is file a Freedom of Information Act request to get the information. I just don't want to facilitate the providing of that information to a federal database. I don't think that's helpful for us, end quote. This was from a question from a student, ladies and gentlemen, and that is our conservative governor's response. I don't think we should give the information up. It's funny to me. It's you know why? I know why Asa said that. He can't take the slightest liberal criticism because you know that this student was a liberal, because how else is a student going to ask a question like that? Because the mainstream media, MSNBC, they're going crazy. Oh, all these states aren't going to submit it. And then he heard that Arkansas did. And so he's going to ask. He was asking this question, I guarantee you, from a liberal perspective, and Asa can't stand up to the slightest amount of liberal skepticism. And so he answers a student's question, and he says, I don't think we should be giving the information to the Trump Commission. Oh, my goodness. What an embarrassment. What an embarrassment. Let me tell you something, folks, and I haven't talked about this, but this Trump Commission on Election Fraud may be the most important thing that happens in a Trump presidency. I mean, one of the most. It's obviously the Supreme Court trumps it all, pun intended. But honestly, like it is clearly, it could be huge. It could be huge. When you start, and let me tell you why. Okay, so if you this is all about trying to get standing. Okay. You want to have legal standing to actually take action. So much of this has to be a federal. The only way to really prosecute this. Let me just okay. So if we're talking about, let's say for example, this is completely hypothetical, but let's say that you have some. Let's say that it's a fact that there are people who are registered to vote and vote in Arkansas, but those exact same people, okay, also show up, who are registered to vote and are voting in another state. I don't know, pick another state. I don't know, like North Carolina, something like that, right? So let's just say that's a thing, right? This commission. What I believe they're going to do, I think they're going to find that stuff out. I think you can mark it down that I bet there are people in conservative states that already have a bead on this. I think they're going to find that kind of stuff out. It's going to happen, and it's going to be rampant. It is going to be absolutely rampant. Mark my words, it's going to be a huge story, okay? And after this commission gets done discovering all of this stuff, it's going to get referred to the Department of Justice and Jeff Sessions, and that's where the real action gets. That's when the people start to go away to jail. You see what I'm saying? Like, because this is because this is not just like it's a national issue, right? If what I said was where you had, okay, let's say maybe you had an Arkansas, you had Arkansas voters who, vote or are on the books and they vote, and they also vote in North Carolina, and you have that situation, it's because it's an interstate issue, it's really not Arkansas's, it is Arkansas's problem, but it's also North Carolina's problem. It demands a national approach. It demands the Department of Justice. You see what I'm saying? So this commission is huge, and they're going to get the data eventually. They're going to get things sorted out. And folks, I have this feeling it's going to be pretty bombshell stuff, and it has the potential to set the left back decades, because people are going to realize, wait a second, 40% of the country's conservative. They say another 40% of the country's liberal. Maybe those aren't the numbers. Maybe it's a lot different than people think. So just kind of keep that in mind. And in the meantime, I want you to know that the bastion of conservatism, the equivalent of the shining city on the hill, Governor Asa Hutchinson, doesn't think that we should have given he's essentially saying he disagrees with Mark Martin, Secretary of State Mark Martin, who's, I will tell you, the Secretary of State Mark Martin is one of the most conservative constitutional officers the state of Arkansas has ever had, period. He says, I'm not a fan of providing any data to the commission in Washington, even though it's publicly available information and anyone can get it. Just to analyze those two statements, I'm not a fan of providing this to the commission, even though it's publicly available and anyone can get it. What is he even talking about? And I'm sure Asa defenders everywhere are going to be saying, well, Paul, he's just trying to stand up for state sovereignty, he's just trying to stand up. He doesn't want us to be cooperative and blah, 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 blah. Really? You think that's him? I mean, he wants to cooperate with every other federal initiative like the Real ID Act and everything else. Oh, by the way, just coincidentally, 5 hours ago, a press release in my inbox, headline, Governor Hutchinson approves Arkansas's participation in the National Emergency Communication System, apparently giving voter data over to Donald Trump's commission. We don't want to do that, but we do want to hurry up and participate in the National Emergency Communication System. It might actually very well may be a good idea, but wonder why he's all gung-ho for that, but not so much just cooperating and saying, this is free public information, go ahead. I support giving it to the Trump administration. From Providence, Rhode Island, at the National Governors Association Summer Gathering, Governor Asa Hutchinson today announced that Arkansas will opt in to the First Responder Network Authority, FirstNet, National Emergency Communication System. Quote, after an in-depth review of the FirstNet, notice it's not called Skynet. That's a good thing. After an in-depth review of the FirstNet and AT&T plan by the appropriate state agencies, by the way, let's just remember that these AT&T, Verizon, I just feel like I need to point this out, all of these national communication companies have been subverted by our own government. If you know anything about the Edward Snowden leaks, subversion of private corporations, it's almost like they're not so private anymore. After an in-depth review of the FirstNet and AT&T plan, I'm just saying it probably fit in perfectly. It's probably a match made in heaven, by the appropriate state agencies and stakeholders, I have decided to approve their recommendation to opt into the program, Governor Hutchinson said. As a former Undersecretary of Homeland Security after 9/11, I understand the necessity of a reliable standalone emergency communication system. FirstNet has received wide support among our community of first responders because it will enable us to respond more quickly during crisis when the machines finally turn on us, when seconds can mean the difference between life and death. The phone number is 870-275-9799. That's 870-275-9799. My name is Paul. The Liberty Machine will roll on and be back here in just a moment.
Bob Baloney here from ASA News, The Parrot. Breaking news from the Capitol in Little Rock. Over now to our new on-site reporter, Susan Shenanigans. Susan?
Thanks, Bob. The governor has just announced that a Blue Ribbon Task Force is to be formed.
Today, I'm asking your support for a Blue Ribbon Legislative Task Force to be created and directed to recommend further reform.
Now we go live to the chamber to listen in for more information on the task force.
I hereby call this session into order. First on the agenda for today is the formation of the Blue Ribbon Task Force. Is there anyone who would like to give their thoughts on the task force?
Yes, as someone who's deeply conservative, why is the governor choosing the color blue for this task force? Sounds like he's really a Democrat loyalist. Why not a red ribbon to prove he's a true conservative?
Well, I represent Walmart, and we agree with the color of the task force ribbon. The color blue is best consistent with the Walmart brand.
I object to this choice. Blue is the wrong color ribbon for this task force.
Well, who are you?
I am Mr. P.C. Wrights, and I represent Target, and we want the ribbon to be red, not blue.
Hold it right there. This seems like a tough decision. Why not ask the governor to call a special session at a later date for an important decision as this?
I think this is something worth talking about. I motion that we decide the color of the ribbon today.
I second it. Fine. We can decide it now. Does anyone have any other suggestions for the color of the ribbon?
I think the color should be white.
Whoa. Hold on. Definitely not white. I agree with Mr. P.C. Wrights. Maybe we should choose green for the farmers.
You like the color green because you are a farmer. I think it should be purple, so we can display how Arkansas is an extremely moderate state.
Why are we even discussing this? Shouldn't we be talking about tax reform instead of wasting time with this?
Well, the people have spoken. They believe this is worth talking about, so we are deciding this now.
Excuse me, sir, but shouldn't the color of the ribbon be rainbow to include all types of people?
Please, silence your phones.
I just received a call from Walmart HQ, and they agree with, what was your name again? My name is Fabulous. They agree with Fabulous that the color should be rainbow.
Target concurs with the decision of it being rainbow-colored ribbon.
Is there a motion to make the ribbon rainbow-colored?
I motion to make the color rainbow.
I second the motion. The motion carries because I said so.
The committee will now vote and not be on record to keep the people in the dark. Back to you, Bob.
Thank you, Susan. And thank you for listening to ASA News, The Parrot. Next up, there are reports of a gorilla on top of the Capitol Dome demanding massive sums of taxpayer cash. His name? Medicaid expansion.
PHP Parody.
All right, welcome back. So an update on Charlie Gard, his parents storming out of the High Court in Britain today amid an emotional hearing as they fight to take him to the United States for experimental treatment, a rare genetic disorder. Very upset. Matt Walsh over at theblaze.com, a contributor there with a great piece as usual. Matt Walsh, really, really good. He calls himself, I think, a professional sayer of truths or something like that. Really, really great conservative mind. He says the parents of Charlie Gard are back in court this week, continuing the struggle to free their baby. As you hopefully are aware, by now Connie Yates and Chris Gard have been fighting with the courts and hospitals in the UK for the right to seek medical care for their sick baby. So far, and this is why I love the beginning of his piece, because we used to talk about this in America. So far, European death panels have determined that Charlie must die because in their estimation, his life is no longer worth living. His parents are not allowed to bring him elsewhere for treatment, nor are they even permitted to bring their child home to die in their arms. He is being held as a condemned prisoner in a state-funded hospital with his mother and father permitted only visiting hours to come and weep over their child they are not allowed to save. But Connie and Chris have been granted one last chance in court to prove the validity of the treatment they hope to obtain for Charlie in the United States. Any sane and decent person would say that it doesn't matter if some judge or some collection of doctors in London think the treatment will be ineffective. Let me say that again. Any sane or decent person, he writes. Matt Walsh goes on, it's the only chance Charlie has, and his parents have the right to give it a shot. But it doesn't work that way because the laws in Europe are neither sane nor decent. Charlie had the misfortune of being born into a system of socialized medicine where government officials get to decide who is worth saving and who must die on the altar of resource efficiency. Here, what we're really talking about here, folks, is free society or not a free society. That's what we're talking about. Matt Walsh goes on, I don't know how this robed God will rule, but it doesn't look particularly good at the moment. Today, the parents stormed out of the courtroom in a fury, understandably exhausted and fed up. God only knows the emotional and spiritual agony this mother and father are experiencing. It is terrible enough for your child to die. It's unthinkable to be forced to watch it happen as you're forbidden to do anything to stop it. But perhaps the most monstrous thing about this whole ghastly affair is the reason repeatedly given for euthanizing a baby against the wishes of his parents. That he has a, quote, right to die. He must be killed for his own benefit. An Associated Press article quotes a British professor of healthcare law who sums up this deranged position. Quote, unlike the USA, English law is focused on the protection of children's rights, said Jonathan Montgomery, professor of healthcare law at the University College London. The United States is the only country in the world that is not party to the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child. It does not recognize that children have rights independent of their parents. I'm sure we're also still in the world where these people think abortion is perfectly fine. Montgomery said that while it was right to consider the views of Charlie's parents, the court will not make a determination on this basis. Quote, this case is about Charlie's rights and what the evidence tells us that they require. That will be the only consideration of the judge at the hearing. Matt Walsh goes on, rather than being honest and admitting that Charlie must perish because the powers that be don't see any value in his life, we must endure the disgusting spectacle of these monsters pretending they're killing him because they're very sure it's what he would want. Now the distinguished professor is correct that children don't have rights in the USA. 1 million abortions a year clearly testify to that. But nearly a third of all babies conceived in Europe are also aborted, so it's simply laughable to pretend that children have any rights at all there or here. Indeed, they have fewer rights there because at least here, if they manage to survive the crucible of the womb, they are granted at least the right to be treated for deadly illnesses. In Europe, on the other hand, he continues, healthy babies are killed in the womb, sick babies are killed when they're born, and if they somehow endure past infancy, they can be euthanized if they ever make the mistake of falling ill before their 18th birthday. Rights of children in Europe? What rights? Matt Walsh says, all I see are dead bodies, and presiding over that mass grave are a bunch of self-righteous academics and government officials patting themselves on the back for being such excellent humanitarians. Monsters, he writes. That's what you really are. Matt Walsh, it's over the Blaze. It keeps going. You guys got to read it. It's really, really good. He does an excellent job. Folks, that's all the time we have for today. Tomorrow is Johnny Cash Friday. Hey, go to paulharrell.com and buy our Liberty Machine t-shirts. We're building a Liberty Machine, and you can wear the t-shirt, and you can tell other people about it. That's building a Liberty Machine. It's t-shirts on sale, paulharrell.com. That's Paul, HARRELL.com. Click on store, and we would appreciate it. Folks, we'll see you tomorrow. Johnny Cash Friday. Until then, be safe.